You're listening to the Astrology Hub podcast, practical wisdom for living your life on purpose. Alison, thank you so much for being here with us today. It is such a pleasure and a true honor to have you here on the show.
Thanks. I'm really excited to do this.
All right. I would love to start with your mission. I mean, so many people are drawn to astrology because it can hold really important keys to our personal missions here on Earth. And you are someone who has obviously found your personal mission and has been living it full-heartedly for the benefit of so many for several decades now. And your mission is big. You know, you've set out on a mission to alter society's culture by transforming the way women relate to men. That's a big mission. And I would love to share a little bit with the audience why you chose those words. So alter society's culture by transforming the way women relate to men. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you find that so important?
Yeah. Well, there's also been evolution since the mission that you just read. So let me see if I can give a short version. So when I was 28 years old, I made what was called at the time an impossible promise, and it completely changed my life. To promise something that couldn't be accomplished in my lifetime actually freed me up from the normal human pursuit of success, which the pursuit of success is not nearly as damaging, in my view, as the flip side of it, which is to avoid failure. Like avoid failure no matter what. And the instinct to avoid failure makes us really careful. It makes us really careful. It often causes us just to be frozen in inaction because we don't want to do the wrong thing. And this is all instinct. So when I dedicated my life to accomplishing something that was impossible, it was like somebody who already knew they were going to lose the game. So how many points can I get on the board and how much fun can I have while I'm doing it? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So what was it?
Well, what I promised was it still is, that every man, woman, and child will be fed, clothed, housed, loved, and respected. Talk about impossible, right? At that time, we had 28,000 children a day dying of hunger. Half the population was homeless. But it's really, if you were going to put it into a word, all those words add up to well-being, right? Physical, mental, emotional well-being, right? Fed, clothed, housed, loved, and respected. And then that was in 1988. And when I was in 1991 was when I found out I was a frog farmer. So I was basically doing the opposite of loving and respecting men because I was furious with them and frustrated by them. And when I committed to studying men so that I could find out what it was that I was doing that was bringing out the worst in them, right? That's the implication of being a frog farmer. And instead of princes, turn men into frogs. So as I was studying men and finding out all the things that I did that virtually every woman does that gives us the worst possible version of who a man can be, then it became clear, like as something that I needed to do for the fulfillment of my personal mission, we needed to transform the way women related to men. Like this was never going to turn out. Like how am I going to feed the world if a man can't even get through the door without having to turn his testicles in? You know, like it's like here we have half the population are compulsive problem solvers, and we have them trying to solve the problem of getting out of a conversation alive. Right? Instead of, honey, could you end hunger, please? Something really needs to get done. So I was just struck by the more I got to know men and how much they want to give us the visions that we have for the world, how that's something they actually look to women for is to up level the culture, the conversation, the point, the purpose. And as long as we didn't know that about them, the problems, I call it heroes dusting the piano. It's just awful. So that was when that first got formally stated. And then later on, we realized that as I was educating women about men, and then I started educating men about women, and then men about men, I found out that men emasculate themselves as much as women emasculate them. And that a lot of men have bought into the point of view that women have about men. And so they're self-emasculating. And so it was like, okay, not only do we need to transform the way women relate to men, we need to transform the way women relate to women, and men relate to women. Okay, so we need to transform the way men and women relate to themselves and each other. Okay, good. And so that was like the first shift. And then the next shift was, oh dear, look what's happening with the children. Our children are growing up in a culture that promotes this antagonism and adversarial relationship between men and women. So not only do we have to pay attention to our curriculum being available now, we need to pay attention to our curriculum being available after we're long gone. So that is one of the reasons why we ended up with all our programs online, because we couldn't lead enough live workshops to get the information out there. And also the Queen's Code got published. And then just in the last year, we upgraded our mission again. So you didn't know you were asking a big question. And it came from, are you familiar with Buckminster Fuller's work?
Yes.
Okay. So one of my favorite quotes of his was him saying, "It appears that I am a verb." And so I went to a seminar with Alex Mendosian that he put on. And he asked everybody, okay, if you're a verb, what is the verb that you are? And mine is illuminate. If I were a verb, mine would be illuminate. That's who I am. And so now what our mission statement says, our company signed off on this because we do this as a team. What it says now is that we are passionate about enriching humanity by providing illumination with which people are empowered to make choices from human spirit.
Wow. And so much of that, right, is encapsulated in the work you do, where we first get to identify when we're acting from human instinct versus when we're acting from human spirit, correct?
Yep, exactly. It's a theme throughout everything.
Yeah. So for those that aren't familiar with human instinct, human spirit, can you tell us what you mean by those terms?
Well, it came about from studying men and trying to figure out why they did what they did. And then when we first created our workshop in 1995, I had lists and lists of characteristics that I observed in the previous almost 4 years. And I was like, what do they all have in common? They have to have something in common. This isn't even like whether it's evolution or divine design or however anybody wants to say it, nothing's willy-nilly. Everything's got a point. So when I looked at what they all had in common, all but one, what they had in common was they were excellent characteristics for surviving. They were, the strength, the problem solving, the imperviousness to criticism, the analyzing, the paying attention to what are the facts instead of the feelings, and all these, just all these characteristics, single focus, all these characteristics we'd identified in men, they all added up to somebody without any claws or venom or protective scales surviving, except for one thing. And I'm like, what the heck? This doesn't fit. And you already know the answer. The one thing is the compelling desire to make women happy. And there is nothing about happiness that serves survival. So that had me going, okay, so there's more going on here than just survival. And then I just had the benefit of getting to be around a lot of medical people and healers, and to learn about how we literally have two different nervous systems. And we have one that's completely dedicated to survival, and we have another that's not. And like that compulsion to take a deep breath and calm yourself down, that's how we switch from one nervous system to another. And that's when I started talking about the duality of being human, and that we have a very much compelled by human instincts, but we also have the ability to choose. We have the ability to notice we're being compelled and get off the train, literally.
You know, what's interesting, Alison, is so much of astrology is the study of duality. there's the sun and the moon, there's the day and the night, there's even Mars and Venus. And also within each sign, there's expressions of it that are maybe more categorized as human instinct, and then there are expressions of it that are human spirit. And so much of it is how do we work with our unique configuration to bring out those human spirit qualities the most. One of the things I love about your work, though, is your ability to deduce it into, astrology is so much the study of how we're different from each other, right? And yours is more, how are we the same? And then where are those differences and where do they come from? Which really is helpful in simplifying the conversation at times. And I think it can really bring us together and realize, okay, I'm not alone in this. This is actually something that most women or most men or most humans experience. So I think it's really helpful to have both perspectives. And I know the deeper I go with your work, the more I get to see the nuances, when we're, for example, creating our noble qualities. Those are different based on each person, right? So
oh, absolutely. Hugely different.
Yes, exactly. And I think, that's where astrology can come in and be really helpful to help us decipher what's important for our soul. But one of the other things that you do so well that astrology is very much about too is help us see the world from the perspective of archetypes. And some of the ones that you use really, really beautifully is the king and the queen. And even the development of men and all the stages of men are using the royal archetypes. So can you tell us why you chose those particular archetypes and how you see that helping people embody the teachings more?
Yeah. Well, in the development of men, that's kind of a funny story. One of my dearest friends, we've known each other since before PAX, we were both dating and we were talking about how all men were not the same. and at first we called them boys, guys, and men, and realized that was not flattering. And as we further distinguished it, that's when we, saw pages and then knights and princes and kings and started to be able to categorize these different ways of being and different attitudes and ways that men in different stages relate to the world and relate to other people and how their stage determines what they're focused on. You could say what they're focused on determines their stage, but it's just huge that the evidence that we've been able to gather over the years, the evidence that there isn't a choice, that a man doesn't get to decide the stage he's in. Other things are deciding that. And like a reaction to their father, like discovering weakness in their father, like if he's having health problems or something, right? That can profoundly affect a man's development. And then as we were just elaborated on the metaphor, what became very clear in terms of an archetype is that kings and queens are not about themselves. Kings and queens literally belong to a people, and a people belong to them. And that becomes the centerpiece of their decisions, who they belong to and who they would say belongs to me, right? So the things we use the word my in front of, and other people who had introduced us that way, my mother, my best friend. And that it's a very different orientation in life when the centerpiece of your decisions is what you're providing for the people, not what you're providing for yourself. It comes from a place of, you could call it abundance if you want, definitely sufficiency. And what we saw when we first started distinguishing this, it was really from listening to men, because men were describing these qualities in women that caused them to respect and admire and be inspired by women. And I literally didn't know what they were talking about. I had never met a woman like men were talking about. And I started searching for them. And at first I could only find them like in, represented in public people. And then I started to see them in entertainment and in movies. And then I started actually met one. Like, oh my gosh, she's a queen. She's actually the godmother of my daughters and marrying my daughter in a few months. And she became a leader at PAX, and we lead the Extreme Queen course together. But she was the first person I was just like, oh my gosh, it's real. And, she's been a model for me. Her name's Catherine Dallman. And so just all these conversations with men and discovering, the tunnel, right? A midlife crisis, and how that's really this spectacular transition from being a prince to a king, and how they're affected by that. And it's just a good, solid kind of way of thinking about being human and what are you focused on. And for a really long time, we thought the stages of development, as we'd identified them, only applied to men. And women kept asking me, well, I'm feeling like I'm a middle prince and I'm just working to build and build and build and build. And I'd be like, okay, good, yay. And it wasn't actually until I came out of my own midlife crisis that I realized I'd been in it. I just thought it was the, hardest 6 months of my life. And then I found myself using phrases that I recognize as things that kings say. Like, why am I talking like a king? Oh, shoot. Oh. So I love it. I love the metaphors. And then it also helps in looking at being a woman in the female side of what we call the Temptress, the mother, and the queen. And what the Temptress is all about and what the mother is all about. And this, again, came from listening to men. They would just tell me what they loved about women and what drove them crazy about women. And I could see them in these other archetypes.
Wow. And the those three archetypes, the Temptress, the mother, and the queen, I can just speak from personal experience. Having those archetypes in mind is so helpful, just to see the different roles we play and the different expressions of our femininity, not one better or worse than the other, just different times that we pull them out. And I love how you teach us the ability to actually elicit them. We had an astrologer on for our 2019 forecast, and she was talking about courting the creative. And so sometimes I think about courting the Temptress in me or the mother in me or the queen in me, and actually cultivating the ability to elicit it when a certain situation calls for it. And I think a lot of us also, it's kind of, oh, the queen's better than the mother, or, the mother's better than the Temptress, I love the equalizing of those archetypes for us.
I'm glad that you love it. It certainly gave me access to parts of myself that, like the Temptress got me in trouble when I was a teenager. So I just kicked her under the bed and completely shut down the expression of my sensuality and sexuality. And then, the mother has everyone feel nurtured, because there's no such thing as everyone to her. There's each individual person, and she's seeing them uniquely, right? But the queen is the one with the big picture. And so when you have one without the other, there's all these things that happen. But I think you know this, Amanda, that it started because when I started studying men, I had the question, what if men are responding to women? And then that led to me going, well, what are they responding to? And men would describe like what they were compelled to do when a woman was being fill in the blank, right? Like if she's being really playful, that they're compelled to participate and compelled to be affectionate. They want to hug her, or if she's meddling, which we would call mothering, instead of being nurturing, she's meddling. Get me away from that. Anyhow, I could go on and on about the Temptress, the mother, and the queen. It's why the book's called The Queen's Code, right?
And I was so drawn. Yeah, it's so drawn to that title. There's such a resonance there. For the astrology people out there, my Saturn is in Leo at 29 degrees, which is conjunct the star Regulus, which is all about royalty. And what I love is this opportunity for us to step into those benevolent royal, not the Game of Thrones versions, because I don't want to be anything like most of the queens in that show. And I'm sure, none of us are really trying to emulate those kings and queens, but that one that you're speaking about, the one that is truly about the realm that they are serving. And it is a benevolent position. Now, Alison, do you think Okay, so you asked that question, are men responding to women? And if we shift, is it enough to shift the dynamic? Do you think that that's true after all this time, that when women make a like fundamental energetic shift, that men respond, and that it has to start there, or that it normally starts there with the women?
Well, fortunately, my question was, what if men are responding to women? So I wasn't out to prove anything. And it allowed me to see all the ways that men are also not responding to women. And it's one of the things that drives men crazy is basically we've got it backwards. So things that women take personally, there's a very good chance it has nothing to do with her. It's all about him. And men will say that, like, it's not always about you, right? But then there are things that we think, oh, he's just a jerk, or his mom didn't raise him right, or people use everything in vain, like, oh, what a Leo, right? Right? I mean, they'll objectify, part of being human is to objectify. It makes us feel like we're in control. And astrology's been used to objectify, just like birth order and ethnicity and culture and age and education. And I mean, we use everything to try to get a handle on something. But it was just awesome to find out there are so many things that we take personally as women that, no, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. And that's why I love the stages of development, because like when a man is in the night stage, there's what he can provide and what he cannot. And he just cannot provide it no matter how he feels about you. And so much of the time, the thing we were talking about before we started officially, why I love everything that helps us to understand ourselves and everything that helps us to stop thinking there's something wrong with us. Because when a man doesn't do what a woman thinks he should do, then her most natural conclusion is that he didn't do what he should have done because he doesn't feel right about her. And that he doesn't feel right about her because there's something wrong with her. And boy, talk about his head down the toilet, right? And so she'll try to change what she thinks is wrong with her to cause him to feel the right way about her, which she assumes will then have him act the right way, because she's got it all tied together that he doesn't take out the trash because he doesn't respect me because I gained 10 pounds. Instead of he doesn't take out the trash because I never asked him to. So
yeah, it's true. It's interesting, Alison, in our 2019 forecast, one of the astrologers, Adam Gainsbourg, said that one of the major themes of 2019 was to start paying attention to where we take things personally and how that blocks true intimacy. Exactly. And I can say that that is a huge revelation, that it's not personal, that there's something else happening. And I truly have seen it so many times really block the ability, because we get defensive and we get all like contracted, and then you can't even hear or see the other person because you're so wrapped up in what's wrong with you. And it really does block the potential for intimacy.
Oh boy. And I could go on and on just on that one thing, but I'll let you direct the conversation.
Yeah, I know. See, Alison, that was my challenge when thinking about this call with you. It's like, oh my gosh, there is so much for us to explore. How do I like whittle it down? But this is a starting point. Okay. One of the things that I also love about your work is this new paradigm of partnership that is truly honoring of each other and truly respectful and really bringing out the best in each other, versus what you sometimes refer to as like an inherited adversarial context. And you see that so much in the way that men and women relate. And it pains me. I have 2 daughters, 10 and 7, and I know exactly what you're talking about with the way our culture starts to imprint them with the adversarial context so early on.
Have you seen that bumper sticker?
I don't know.
boys are stupid, throw rocks at them.
Ooh, God.
Yeah. Bumper sticker.
I mean, it's just, I haven't seen it, thankfully. And that's crazy. What does this look like? So for so many of us, we didn't even grow up with a paradigm in our head of what partnership could look like. Just like when you were describing the queen, it's like, where is she? Where is she? The same thing I think is true about this partnership paradigm. What does that look like to you?
Well, it goes back to our conversation about human animal or human instincts and human spirit. And I think virtually everyone who's pursued what you might call personal growth or transformation has experienced moments in their life where there was no separation between them and the rest of humanity. That it was like, we're all one. Why are we fighting? We're all one. And that experience of being on the same side, being on the same team, that's one of the definitions of partnership, is on the same side or team. And it's a spiritual experience that only can really happen when there's a sense of sufficiency, that there's enough. There's enough time, or there's enough food, there's enough love, there's enough approval. Enough is the access to the whole domain of human spirit, and the whole domain of, and partnership is an expression of that. And human history is a story of scarcity. And whether it's an actual scarcity, like, we don't have enough put away for the winter, or a perception of scarcity, which, people sitting on hoards, right? And still can't, just have to keep going out and gathering and gathering and gathering and hunting and hunting and hunting and keep bringing it back to the cave and back to the cave because we're never, ever, ever going to have enough and we're going to die. That's a normal human experience. I'm going to die is part of being human. And I'm going to fail, right, is a version of that. And we have a new online course. It's actually being published tomorrow. And it's called The Heart of Partnership. And it's really focuses on illuminating the human instincts that will prevent partnership. Okay, so powerful outcome of what I would call the core drivers. So if you think of procreate, then protect, then provide, pursue success, avoid failure, and there's never enough. That's the fundamentals of human instincts. But one of the ways that they express themselves is in concealing. So both men and women have the instinct to conceal anything that could be used against them. And what it shows up in when we experience being strong, or what we would call power more, that in this situation we have more power than others, it's going to have us conceal our strengths so that they can't be foiled, conceal our weaknesses so they can't be used against us, conceal our attachments so they can't be used against us because those are weaknesses, and never admit to needing anything, because that is a weakness, needing anything. And when we feel like we're powerless, like we're dependent upon someone, it'll have us reveal what we think will have them either value us more or be more attracted to us, or failing all that, have them feel sorry for us. So we'll play upon whatever we can to get this person to be our protector and our provider. And one of the things we'll conceal are the things we really need. So it doesn't matter if we're experiencing being really powerful or being powerless in any moment, it's going to have us conceal. And partnership requires overcoming the instinct to conceal and actually open our mouths and say, I need, right? Or what would make me happy is. To tell somebody what would make you happy, oh my gosh, talk about exposed, right? And partnership requires exposure, and it requires, okay, there's this thing that happens where, let's say how you relate to me, Amanda, is that you're my partner. Meaning if I need something, you want to know about it because you'll give it to me if you can. But if I don't know that about you and I don't trust you, and so I don't trust you to be my partner, I don't trust you to be for me, then I'm not going to tell you what I need from you until maybe 20 years later. I'll let you know you didn't, you failed. Right? And so one of the things that we do is we we literally dishonor each other by not providing the information that would allow the person to make choices to spend their time and energy and resources in a way that would be really potent. And this is one of the ways that we emasculate everybody, men, women, everybody. You know, we define emasculation as diminishing a person's ability to produce results. So if you're not sharing quality information, like the end of the sentence, what I need the most right now is, we're literally diminishing each other's ability to produce results. And so partnership is about the opposite of it. That we're always paying attention to empowering my own ability to produce results, your ability to produce results, our ability to produce results together. What has that get bigger? Even if it's scary, even if I have to overcome my own instinct, that I cough that up anyway.
Do you find this is easier for men or women, or is it equally challenging for both?
I think it's probably equally challenging, but for really different reasons. What makes it easier for men is, and you heard me talk about this in Sex and Intimacy in that program, I mean, they literally have team at the cellular level, right? Like the author of Sperm Wars, right? Who demonstrated in the laboratory how impregnation is a team sport.
Really? I have not heard this.
Oh my gosh. It's so cool. And intuitively, it's like, oh, of course. Yeah. Like, he, I don't know what made him do this, but he would take sperm from different men and put it in the same petri dish and watch it under a microscope. And he started to make distinctions where, like, fertility experts, they're always looking for motility. They're always looking for the sperm that are really fast, right? But when he watched sperm interacting with sperm from a different man, it was more like a football game. And so the big, slow female sperm, right? They were blockers. And they'd actually like barge through, the lines of the opposing sperm. And then the really fast one, those are the runners, right? And those are boys. But there's actually killer sperm that will attack the other sperm. And that it's all about, our team's got to win. Our team's got to get to the egg and impregnate the egg and, carry on our genetic code. And it's just, to me, it was just awesome. It's like men have team in their bones. Even if they don't play a team sport, they still know what it is. And women, we don't really do team. We have temporary alliances. And like we talk about in understanding men, one of the things that pains men the most, maybe this isn't until love and commitment, is that when the woman that he's committed himself to doesn't have his back, or, I got your six, is it where they express it in the military? I got your six. But to a woman, our instinct is to ride the fastest horse, right? Our instinct is to find the biggest, strongest, most resourceful protector and provider we can find, because it seems like our lives depend on it. And when our man shows weakness, like the pardonable sin of being wrong, like we just jump ship. Like, oh yeah, I got his back when he's right. But from an instinctive point of view, staying on someone's team when they're making a mistake, that is stupid. That is a threat to survival. And so to have somebody's back, even when, I think he's being a jerk, but it doesn't matter. He's my jerk. So don't you dare talk about him that way. Men and women sacrifice themselves for different things and in different ways. And that's one of the challenges that we both have to partnership, because in a partnership, if you're sacrificing yourself for me, we're both less. Like in a partnership, you never want people to sacrifice for you. In normal life, in adversarial existence, which is normal, you're always trying to get people to sacrifice themselves. Come on, you can do it. Just get up earlier. Well, yeah, you'll be tired, but you'll get over it. Come on, help me out. Like we literally are trying to manipulate other people to sacrifice themselves all the time. In partnership, no, you never, ever, ever, ever want the other person to sacrifice themselves. And that's one of the statements, like, I will if I can without sacrificing myself. because that's my job, is to not sacrifice myself. And it's why it's my job is because I'm the only one who will really know that I'm sacrificing myself. No one else will ever have enough information to know what something costs me.
Wow. So many different paths to go down, Alison. And I know we're coming up on our time. So let me just make a confession. About 3 years ago, when I was at the height of my divorce experience, you were coming to Maui and you were going to be doing a workshop. And a lot of the women in my community were going, and I got invited. And I remember thinking, God, that is the last thing on earth I need to do right now, is understand men better, or understand how to relate to men better. And, because I was just in that, I was in an angry phase, right? And then, this is actually showing some of the power of astrology and timing, because then you come into my life again this last year, and the timing is just all perfectly aligned for me to just really dive deep into this area of my soul development. And again, you can see that with transits and different things that are happening astrologically. Now, my point in my question is, what would you say to the people out there that are in the moment just really hurt by the adversarial paradigm that we pretty much all exist in? And how can people open their hearts enough to just begin to see another way?
Well, funny you would ask that at this time, because we did something recently that we never even considered before. It's right to your point of what you're talking about, because, 3 years ago, the last thing you wanted to work on was understanding men. But what if you'd had a chance to work on understanding yourself so that you knew why you hurt so deeply, right?
I would have been more open to that.
Yeah. So we're now allowing women to take the Understanding Women course without having taken Understanding Men first, without committing to partnership with men. We're letting them take it to heal themselves and to find out all the things that men don't know about them. So women get hurt by the things we assume they know, right? Like, I thought my first husband either didn't care about what I needed or was purposely withholding it. Mostly I thought he was purposely withholding it. It never occurred to me that he hadn't a clue what I needed, because it was so different than what he needs. And then on the other side, men are now taking the Understanding Men course because they want to know themselves better. And by watching me teach women about men and watching the women's reactions in the videos, they now understand why the women in their lives have treated them the way they have, because they're mystified by the way women attack them. It's just shocking. And it has them, we act like they're, armadillos or something, and just, I thought they were completely insensitive, and that I never worried about hurting their feelings because I knew they didn't have any. Are you kidding me? Men are so sensitive and so vulnerable to especially the women they care about. Oh my gosh, marshmallows. But we don't know that, because we don't even realize we're attacking them, and we think they're jerks for being defensive. But we didn't know that, if a man in your life's being defensive, just try trusting that without knowing it, you attacked him. In his world, he was just attacked, even if you didn't think it was, because it would never affect you that way. So we're throwing the doors open and letting people come to our curriculum to what they need now, including one of the most advanced programs I've ever done. It's called Extreme Freedom. There are no prerequisites. Someone can just walk off the street and do this program that will give them all these different tools to heal their heart, heal their childhood, heal their self-esteem, heal their relationship to life. And it's just a treasure chest for people to be free of their past, of their constructs, of their rules, what I would call their prison bars. And so that's what we've been doing. We just open the doors and start where you need to start. Do you need to understand men? Do you need to just understand women? Do you need to heal your wounds and restore your honor? Come and get it.
Brilliant. I think that is a great call. And I just want to, that word, the words you just used, treasure trove or treasure chest. I don't know if it was treasure trove or treasure. Your work has absolutely been that for me. And had I come to it 3 years, it's all perfect timing. And, who knows? What's funny is 3 years ago is when astrology came in, because astrology was helping me understand myself, which was what I needed at the time. So you're right on. I highly encourage any of you out there who are really dedicated to this new paradigm of both honoring ourselves and honoring each other. And I know so many of us can see it, and like in some way it's kind of maybe fuzzy and hazy, but there's this inkling in us, there's this urge in us to do things differently because we're tired of banging our heads against the wall and trying to do it in a way that's obviously not serving anyone. So Alison's work has been deeply, deeply healing, deeply revealing. Alison, I have 3 brothers and a dad I adore. And I thought I understood men. I was like, oh my God, I grew up in a house full of men. But when you talk about, being imprinted by the teenage male, I was imprinted by 3 of them and all of their friends on the football team in my house. So I carried that imprint for so long. And the deeper I go, the more I realize I don't know. And there's such a liberation and a humility and really a joy in that, because there's this discovery that now gets to happen, both with myself, which is just so beautiful, and with the men in my life, including the brothers I grew up with and the dad I adore. So I just want to thank you for everything that you've committed yourself to. And just for those of you out there who feel, a big mission or a big call like Alison has had, there's so many people who benefit from you when you're shining that bright light, and you have no idea how far those ripple effects go. And so here I am, out on this island in Hawaii, Alison, and just loving your work. Literally, like when I'm not working, when I'm not with my girls, I'm with Alison. I'm hanging out with you, and it's such a pleasure. So where do people go if they want to learn more about you and your work and how they can work with you?
Understandmen.com is probably the easiest way to go. We have our curriculum there, and we have free stuff there, and can get access to the 3 books that I've published. And that's the easiest place to start.
I just wanted to tell them my little path with you, just in case they're interested. I did Keys to the Kingdom, which is an audio book first, because I barely have time to read. So the audio thing was really appealing to me. Then I did Queen's Code, and then I went all in on all the online workshops. So
no, that's a great order to do it. And you can read Keys, or I can read it to you, whichever one you want. And
do you have Queen's Code on audio now?
Not yet. It's my project one of my projects for this year is to put it on audio. And I just, as they're fiction, and they're, unapologetically sentimental, but they also get up in your face, right? And I'm just unwilling to trust the inflection to somebody else. So I'm gonna read it myself.
Yes, you must. It's so good, you guys. Oh, love. And I love the sentimentality of it. It's beautiful. It touches your heart, and it's like, wow, could that really exist? Like, is that real? Which is a fun question to play with. Okay, so then what I'm sorry, I interrupted you. So what would you do? What if they want to do after the books?
If you go to the website, in the upper left on the bar, right, click curriculum. And that actually gives the whole path of our curriculum, from the understanding level to the being extraordinary level to the art of partnership level. And so there's a whole path there. And then if you click on understanding men and women, that will lead you to the options that we have right now for the online curriculum, which are better than they've ever been. What we used to have to charge for our live workshops just to break even is now crazy to me, right? It was almost $800 people would have to pay for a weekend, and consultants were always telling me to charge more money. And now you can do Understanding Men for $198 for 30 days. You can watch it over and over again. So I am just really happy about, start with Understanding Men, start with Understanding Women, start with both. We have couples who are starting together. We have something called Begin Together, where they each get both of them. And then, as you know, I have live interactions with the people in our courses. In fact, that's where I have to be in a few minutes, where I'm just answering questions that help people through their journey.
You've helped me so much. I can come and bring like real time questions like, this is happening right now. What should I do? Really good. And that's what I love about your work too, is it's so practical. Like I literally learn things and apply them immediately and see the magic. It's like, oh my God, like it's incredible. I can't say enough good things about your work, Alison. So everyone check it out. I highly encourage you to. And again, I think that the astrology for the year and actually for the next decade and probably for the rest of our life points to this really being something for us to work on, cultivate, really pave a new path for the next generations. Because we all know the way that we've been doing it isn't working out so well for anyone. Those of you with children, I love, Alison, I'm having these conversations with my 2 daughters and really mindful of helping to seed a new perception for them. So thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thanks for a fun conversation.
All right. Well, you're welcome back anytime. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Astrology Hub podcast. We can't wait to continue exploring with you and bringing you astrology's most practical wisdom so you can live your life on purpose. We'll catch you on the next episode.